Support WrestleTalk!
Support each other. 7 years ago, back in mid-April 2020, WWE released or furloughed a reported 40% of its staff, including wrestlers such as Rusev, Kurt Angle, EC3 and Eric Rowan. And thanks to EC3's free C3 website countdown tracker, we know there is under 14 days left of their 90-day non-compete clauses, meaning the talent can start appearing for other promotions from July 15th, just 3 days before Impact Wrestling's biggest show of the year, Slammiversary. After teasing the debuts of pretty much every WWE wrestler released back in April, Impact have reportedly secured at least 2 of them for the event, with Gary Cassidy of Sportskeeda reporting former OC members Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows have signed with the promotion. The deal is reportedly very lucrative and will still allow for them to wrestle for New Japan once international travel opens up again, which Anderson has been teasing since April. Wrestling for New Japan, that is, not airplanes. Gallows and Anderson have even reportedly already filmed content for Impact's on-demand streaming service, which could be a version of their Talkin' Shopper Mania podcast, and we should expect to see their debut return combo, Anderson has never wrestled for TNA but Gallows has, at Slammiversary itself or shortly after. WWE firing such a large portion of their roster back in April reportedly wasn't done to keep the company afloat during these hard coronavirus times, but so they could maintain profit margins to keep shareholders happy. Business. Sadly, that kind of immoral, humanity-lacking course of action is exactly what gets the stock market horny. The Middleton Press is reporting that despite the XFL filing for bankruptcy, WWE holding shows with no fans, a worldwide pandemic, outbreaks within the Performance Center, lawsuits against WWE and Vince McMahon personally, and TV ratings spiraling downwards, Vince's own fortunes have increased. From March to June this year, Vince's net worth has reportedly increased by $177 million, totaling $1.977 billion. Dave Meltzer has reported that releasing contracted talent back in April would save $8 million per year, and McMahon personally made over 22 times that amount in 3 months. Quick depressing maths, and more depressing news might be incoming. The infamous Black Wednesday on April 15th actually began with an internal conference call for all of WWE's staff and wrestlers, where they were informed that firings were coming imminently. Later that day, almost 40% of the company no longer had a job. It's potentially not a good sign then that Dave Meltzer is reporting another mandatory conference call is being held today, Tuesday, June the 30th, specifically about NXT UK. Talent haven't yet been told what the call is about specifically. It could be good news, like NXT UK shows are beginning again soon, like how Alex McCarthy reported at the weekend that WWE is still committed to the brand, especially with NXT UK's deal with BT Sport. Or it could be bad news, as the UK talent has already seen Jack Gallagher released officially, with El Ligero and Travis Banks also reportedly being let go, following a number of speaking out allegations. And Tom Colohue of Sportskeeda is reporting the complete opposite of McCarthy. WWE are now considering closing the promotion. Follow us on Twitter at WrestleTalk_TV, as we'll have coverage of the story as news breaks, and make WrestleTalk.com your homepage, where you can also read about Rusev's non-WWE name being confirmed, who was meant to be the father of Maria Kanellis' child in that Drop Raw storyline, and more. Click the links in the video description to go straight to any of those right now. It'll make WrestleTalk.com editor Andy Datson very happy if you do, and it's his birthday today, so give him a birthday treat and follow him at Andy Datson WT on Twitter too. But for now, here's last night's Raw in about 5 minutes. Thanks for your support on Patreon. He can last Sean Fur longer than you in the ring, and the roller coaster, Robert Acosta. The show opened with things really getting out of hand fast, with Samoa Joe presiding over a dual championship contract signing that had already broken down into a brawl between Asuka against Sasha Banks and Bayley, with Sasha's shoes off and her bare feet exposed. Sasha, you're playing into all those creepy wrestling feet subreddits. Only one thing can possibly calm down these wild brawlers: a Dolph Ziggler promo. Ziggler and Drew McIntyre very calmly sat down, casually trash-talked each other, and signed their contracts as Sasha and Asuka just sat down behind them. Because this is Extreme Rules, the horror show, you better believe there's gonna be gimmicks. So Drew let Dolph pick theirs. Bring back the Kennel of Hell, it makes so much sense with their Dogs of War past. But Asuka and Sasha started brawling again. This set up a mixed gender tag for the main event, with Dolph's hair looking beautiful in the match graphic. Caruso alert! After Charlie seemed a bit jealous of Angel Garza flirting with female referee Jessica Heiser, Big Show interrupted Zelina Vega's backstage interview, so Zelina and her gang of sexy men interrupted Big Show's in-ring promo on Randy Orton next, which was interrupted by Ric Flair. What is he doing there in the middle of a performance center coronavirus outbreak? I want him as like a minimum precaution to be in a mobile plexiglass cage, like he's the Pope, because he is a wrestling god after all. Who said Big Show had a cartoon on Netflix like Ric Flair knows what a Netflix is? And then the Viking Raiders interrupted them. A lot happened in just a few segments. We're 3 weeks into the Pritchard McMahon era of Raw now, following Heyman's removal as executive director earlier this month. And I can't believe I'm saying this, they're making some really fun, watchable TV. Everyone has something to do. The brand feels like an interconnected universe, and the pace is frantically quick. The show is pretty well structured for the stories they want to tell. The problem is, I'm not a fan of some of those stories, like their undermining fascination of breaking up Andrade and Angel Garza, who are quickly becoming a go-away heat tag team with counterproductive infighting every other segment. Garza won here, positioning them as the #1 contenders, which annoyed Andrade. They continued to argue backstage, but stopped and started awkwardly smiling when Flair strutted over. Look at the polite "I'm going out with your daughter" smile on Andrade's face. Still handsome. Following Akira Tozawa sneaking a 24/7 title win last week, R-Truth got it back here in about a minute, dodging some ninjas and running off. Seth Rollins, holding a purple mask, not a euphemism, cut an in-ring promo asking Ray for forgiveness, not for what he's done in the past, but for what he's going to do to him in the future, which was a really nice bit of material. Ray and Dominic interrupted on the Tron to then use their Performance Center avatars of Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo for Holla Holla, a tag team match, luchas. Like all the in-ring action on this episode, this was a fun, fast-paced match, skipping all the usual ring psychology stuff and skipping straight to the extended high spot final sequence. Seth won with a stomp on Carrillo and followed up with a subtly awesome injury angle, putting the purple mask, again not a euphemism, on Humberto and then stomping him on the steps. The Iconics made fun of Ruby Riott backstage for not having any friends, which really got over the charisma of everyone involved, and then Lana later told Ruby about the Code of Natalia, which wasn't so charismatic. This turned into Peyton Royce pretty much squashing Riott in a singles match, which I assume is to get over how Ruby and Liv Morgan work better as a team. Big Show had a handicap match against the tag team title #1 contenders Andrade and Angel Garza in 2020 and won in 2020. Despite their numbers advantage, neither Garza nor Andrade wanted to wrestle the Big Show because, well, he's just too big. And as soon as they got on top, the infighting began again, leaving Andrade to be chokeslammed for the loss. Again, the match was well worked for the story they were telling. I'm just not into the story and think it's a massive waste of Vega's faction. Because Lucha people only hang out with Lucha people in WWE, Raw then cut backstage to, former United States champions hanging out with other former and current United States champions and Cedric Alexander. Is it diversity when it's just all fudged into the same division? Cruz then took on another former United States champion, MVP, next in a really decent match, which MVP won rather suddenly with a fisherman suplex pin. Bobby attacked Cruz after, which brought out another former US champion Ricochet for a match against Lashley, where Bobby brutally dominated Rick, impressively chucking him around the ring. Ricochet's selling was excellent, as was his comeback. It's so great to see Ricochet wrestle properly again, so he got beaten by the Master Lock. Bobby gets so sweaty, people should just be able to slip out. And then the main event saw a really fun intergender tag of Drew and Asuka against Dolph and Sasha. There was a lot to enjoy here. Bayley being overly heelish on commentary, Drew just being an awesome, affable babyface, he's my favourite, and Sasha versus Asuka, who I genuinely can't wait for at Extreme Rules. I think there's a real argument right now, looking at the card, to make that the main event. After exchanging submissions back and forth, Sasha rolled up Asuka to win. It's yet another loss for Asuka, when she really could do with some strong wins. But this caps off a fantastic month for Sasha, and amazingly, showing how strongly Drew has been booked too, this is his first TV loss since November. That was this week's Raw in about 5 minutes. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments down below, because I'll be replying to people from out of my plexiglass Pope-mobile. This was a fun and fast-paced episode with some really enjoyable in-ring action and the very exciting prospect of Asuka versus Banks. Andrade and Garza really need to be on the same page to make their act a credible threat, but otherwise, I thought this was a decent show. This week's Raw is a high average. WWE are trying to sign a recently fired controversial wrestler. Click the video on the right to find out more. And Quizzlemania returns tomorrow on Parts Unknown. Click the video on the right to set your reminder for the show now and become a WrestleTalk Patreon to get our brand new exclusive WrestleTalk After Dark podcast, where we mostly talk about Eurovision and make Luke do press-ups over his webcam. Click the P on screen for that, and follow us at WrestleTalk_TV on Twitter, because that was wrestling.